Welcome traders to our post-week market review. I hope you have enjoyed the first week. Obviously, it is a little bit hard launching something inside a market that is so saturated. There's a million and one different signal providers out there, but obviously at Purefx, we're trying to do things differently. We'll go in. We're going to create a video as to why Purefx is different from all these sort of guru, sort of scammy type signal providers that are already out there. Basically, we just want to change the game. Anyway, this is our post-week market review. Inside this video, we are going to cover the entire week of price action, understand what's happened, and have a sort of outlook or give our overall bias on what we could expect to see next week. So, starting things off from where the market opened up, which is this candlestick here. We spoke about this in our midweek technical analysis and noticed that price continued that overall bearish momentum that we saw on Friday last week. The reason why we saw a huge amount of bearish momentum and obviously a lot of volatility within the market is because we had a non-farm payroll news event. So market opened up and continued on that bearish continuation, and then we sort of came to a halt. And then after that, price then decided to consolidate. Again, we spoke about most of these things in our midweek technical analysis, but we'll just go over it again briefly. So we created this sort of top side resistance of around 0.7600 and a bottom side support of around 0.70370. As you can see, price decided to consolidate within this range for quite some time until we saw a break at 4 p.m. BST. On Tuesday. As you can see, price broke through following on from this overall bearish continuation that sort of started at the New York session open, and price drove down to around that 0.07005 mark. From there, again, we saw continued consolidation, but not much of a bottom side support tested. As you can see, we did in fact see a break in the gap between the New York session and Asian session. However, price pushed back up to this level and tested it as a resistance, and then continued on bearish again to where we found lows here. So we created these London lows on Thursday, and as you can see, if I just zoom in a little bit here, you can see that the New York session opened up and pulled price away from the London lows straight away. In turn, breaking structure of those London highs. And then from there, price pushed back into the original consolidation zone that began this week. And as you can see, we are sort of finishing this week inside a consolidating range. One thing I will tell you, or one thing I do notice, which I'm sure you will notice as well, if we go to our higher time frames, we will sort of be able to see a head and shoulders pattern start to form. So you can see that we have our left shoulder, we have our overall head. Obviously, it's not going to be picture perfect, but just roughly, sorry, that's the wrong button. It's not going to be picture perfect, but just roughly you can see what I am talking about. So again, left shoulder, our overall head, and then we're creating our right shoulder now. Obviously, we're going to have our neckline somewhere in there, roughly about here. So in terms of a bullish move this week, just based on the head and shoulders pattern that we're seeing created, we're going to accept that we probably could see price push above this top side resistance of that original consolidation area from the beginning of the week. However, of course, there is definitely going to be there's definitely still the possibility for a bearish move from this point onwards. So upon market open, what we're going to sort of have to look at is how price reacts between these two levels, which again is that same bottom side and top side resistance and support that we saw beginning the week. First things that we'll be looking for is if we do see a bullish move, we're looking for that level of 0.70600 to be broken past. And then obviously, as you can see, we have our 200 here on our hourly time frame. If we can see that broke, that's sort of a double confirmation, and we'll expect price to keep on pushing. However, as you can see, we did see at the start of this week, we did see price push to the same sort of area that we're looking for price to push in now. We created some London highs and then price just dropped straight off. However, it is now later on down the line. Price action has continued to consolidate, and we could potentially just see price push up and finally break these tests that we saw at the beginning of the week. if we are to see a bearish push from this level, first of all, we're going to need the bottom side support of 0.70370 broken, and then obviously, as you can see, this faint purple line here is our 50 moving average, so it would be sort of a double confirmation either side. So we've got the double confirmation here that would give us a potential long, and we obviously have our double confirmation here at the bottom that would give us our potential short. If I go to our minute 15, you'll be able to see things in a little bit more detail. Obviously, our 50 and our 200 will change, but you can see that the 50 and the 200 is holding up price, and overall the ranges for this most recent sort of move, these last sessions, so obviously this being our Asian, London, and then New York, and then obviously market closed. But you can see that the ranges within these last three sessions aren't very drastic from one another. There's not much to actually say other than the London session. I'd say this London session is actually quite interesting because we created this. We had a high inside the Asian session and we created a low inside the Asian session. London session, so we had that gap between London session and Asian session. Beginning London session, we actually swept Asian lows. However, we did test on this 200 on minute 15, and that gave price enough momentum and strength to push up further. And then obviously, as you can see, we came back down, testing on previous resistance as support, and then continued on higher throughout into the New York session. Obviously, inside that New York session, the second we're sort of in there, and it's just the New York session alone, you can see that we did in fact break through the London highs. Technically, it is still a London high because it's in that overlap period of the London session to the New York session. However, we just sort of count that as a New York break through London highs. So that London session was quite interesting, but if you can see sort of prior to this, sessions do have quite a bit of change. London session more than most. Sort of the way sort of AUD USD works is you see those sort of smaller moves happen. Obviously this can change, but most of the time you see the smaller moves happen inside of the Asian session and New York session, and London session is where sort of price propels, and we see those bigger moves, for example here, and so on and so forth. It's sort of how AUD USD likes to move. But going back to our hourly time frame and going back to what we're actually here for, overall this week, consolidation. We've seen one level and a secondary level of consolidation. Where price is currently finished, we've finished in the start of week consolidation area, and we're looking for that top side resistance to be broken through, followed by that 200, or that bottom side support to be broken through, followed by that 50. So going into next week, sort of uncertain, but there is definitely a good and strong structure for actually going into next week, especially for taking trades. Of course, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I don't really think there's going to be many people watching this. If you're listening to me speaking to you right now, then by all means, let me know in the comments below. It would mean the world. Obviously, like I said at the start of this video, we have just launched. We're not expecting any traction, especially with the sort of negativity that is around this niche. But again, like I said, Purefx is here to take over. Purefx is here to do this stuff differently. We're not going to be feeding you a bunch of false hope. We're not going to be feeding you a bunch of cool profit screenshots of thousands and thousands and thousands of made off of one trade, because that's just not what we want to do. There's a reason we work in percent, not pips. There's a reason we stick to one pair. And obviously, over time, you will come to see that Purefx is and probably will only be the main signal channel out there for people to actually learn from trading, become better traders, actually sort of understand the markets more. But like I said, it's very early days. We're literally going into week 2 come tonight, 10 p.m. BST. So yeah, if you are here and you are watching these videos, thank you so much for being here at the start. I might have to make some sort of like little founders club, little founders community for the first sort of people that end up joining. It's not even about buying, because obviously we are in this to make money, but we're here to have a trading community, to really sort of understand the struggles traders go through right now, and have our community to be able to talk with one another, be able to give each other tips and tricks, be able to give each other experiences within trading. So yeah, but over time you will see that Purefx is here to do it differently. We're here to take over. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you can, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I will catch you in our midweek technical analysis. Of course, you'll get a start of week technical analysis right up tomorrow. But yeah, stay tuned for the next video and I will catch you there. Peace.